Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Hotline League. Boy, golly, gee, is there a lot to talk about this week. I don't know how we're going to get through all the topics. Actually, if only they had... Last week, we had too many topics to talk about. This week, there's not as much. And if only we had been able to spread that out a little bit. I think we can probably hop in on some of those. Mark, what are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing at Twitch chat. The audio, there's a problem with the audio, Travis. Fix it.
Mark, do you want to explain for VOD listeners and podcast people what this is that you've done?
Listeners and podcast people, we had a great pre-show. This is probably the most fun I've had in the pre-show. It's just been just hoot after hoot. This is why you got to watch live. You're a more valuable listener watching live, actually, too. That too. So please watch live.
Anyway, let's get into the show. So first off, thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show. What have you been up to lately, Mark?
Not much. Went to Vegas this weekend with Ashley since I'm traveling quite a bit this month. Potentially, maybe, I don't know. I might do some more traveling soon. But I was just in Raleigh, so we wanted to get some good quality time together. Saw 2 shows.
What shows?
Saw Cirque du Soleil Mystere. Good, pretty good. Cirque du Soleil. Saw Penn and Teller. I think they're losing it. I think they were. I know they're supposed to be great, but it was just kind of not great. So I think it's Chris Angel next time we're in there. Chris Angel. Probably next.
Too spent my weekend with magic, but a different type of magic, because this past weekend was the pre-release for March of the Machine.
How was it? Is it a good set?
It's a great set. We had 18 people show up at Golden Guardians yesterday. And then Spotrick, who's in the chat, also sent me a box in the mail that showed up recently of Modern Masters 2015, which is a very, very generous gift. And so I'll be doing something with that in the after show, I think. Anyway, I like it a lot. Somebody says the set is okay. You can get fucking Ragavan. Anyway.
Did I talk about beef last week?
You mentioned it, but I think we sped along the opening of that show because we didn't have a lot of time and we had Fudge on.
Beef is fucking great. Have to push it again. I don't think I started watching too much new stuff because what happened last week too was Ashley has been studying for a long time for her RVT test, registered veterinary technician, and she had that last week on Thursday and she passed it. So that was the other thing, was Vegas was a bit of like a celebration. So she was hella stressed. Her anxiety was in full blown mode, and so I don't think we were watching as much stuff last week. Just Survivor, dude. Love is Blind season finale. Like the live show was a disaster. It's fucking terrible. And like, as someone who works in live TV, whoever was like their director, well, basically LCS is live TV, right? Like whoever was the director taking shots was really slow, and it was just like hella awkward where they would like linger on people too long, or they wouldn't get the person talking. Like it was just a very poorly produced show. It didn't go up in time. The captions were weird. Just like everything about it. It was fascinating to watch. Just a horribly produced program.
Nice. When I was in Raleigh, they had the hotel I was staying at only had cable, which, by the way, if you're a hotel, and this is like a decent hotel too, it was not like a terrible hotel, you got to have something more than cable. Like, let me log into my Netflix or at least access YouTube or something. But
easily downloadable porn. Yeah, anything.
Anyway, there was a Harry Potter marathon going on, and I caught the end of Goblet of Fire, and so then that made me watch 5, 6, 7, 8 on HBO over the past week or whatever, and I had not seen a lot of those for a very long time. So they hold up pretty well, even though they're only like 10 years old, so it's not that bad. But
your transphobia memory lane, huh?
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, you do feel.
I like how this.
That is the scar on that. It's really hard to enjoy. It is harder to enjoy that stuff given everything around it. But yeah,
how the original cast refuses to work with her, and she's a heavy hand in the reboot that's coming.
Yes, I heard about that.
It's a landmine.
Where like basically they wanted to do Cursed Child, and those guys were not down. So then they're doing the show. I saw a great TikTok about like basically you know, how HBO will affect like an edgy one where it was like Euphoria style or whatever. But
For Harry Potter, they're all just doing sex and drugs and
it
like
was
are
so
creepy. You're
good.
like, whoa.
Yeah. It's I'll
Oh
send you the
fuck.
TikTok later. It's really good.
This guy, this YouTuber I watch, Man Carrying Thing, had a pretty good one about the new Harry Potter series too. Just about like you're just gonna make every book a season. Like, what are you gonna do about the one with like goblin rights, where it's like played off as a joke? Like Hermione was crazy for fucking, you know, like so many problems.
Yeah. I saw Croissant in the chat. Croissant, if you want to be our guest tonight, you ignore my message, but if you want to be our guest tonight, it would be fun to have you on.
No, he said I'm watching on my phone, playing MTG on my iPad next time.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah,
I missed his reply.
he's dodging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird time for just TV in Hollywood, man. Like I feel like both of us are not on the cutting edge of like sci-fi fantasy, but like up to with like some of the more popular series. And I feel like there's a plenty of good IPs that are like, do you want to start another $1 billion franchise? Like, it's right here, guys. It's Red Rising. You know, just like someone fucking take this, please, for the love of God.
No,
Stuff
we
like
got
that.
nostalgia, Mark. All right, nostalgia.
The people who were 20 when Harry Potter came out are 30 now. We gotta show it again.
True. All right. What are we going to talk about this week? First off, I think we can do some open mic calls, or not open mic calls, open lines, I guess, for folks that want to talk about general things. I know last week we had to rush through a bunch of stuff, but if people want to have conversations, I know there's been some news that came out. So obviously, Immortals announced today that Treats is coming back, and Fleshy will be headed to Academy. Animatonium. Anonymatoma. I love this guy, but his name is hard to pronounce. Reported that Rich is going to replace Armut in Dig. So, yeah, Armut's fall from grace is pretty wild, actually. It actually reminds me a little bit of like Broxa, and maybe Whippo. I don't know. LCS don't come here because it ends your career. What else? I think we didn't really get a chance to talk too much about the commissioner stuff last week. So if people want to talk about that, I think
the new chairman of the NALCS Players Association didn't have much to say about the scenes going on.
Yeah, Fudge got announced for that. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so
but
funny.
Yeah,
it was one of the comments in the Reddit thread was like, "Just saw Fudge on Hotline League. Not a good look."
That's funny. What else? Oh, Preco's in the chat. Maybe we can get him to talk about Arcane Season 2. Hello, Preco. Christian Link in the flesh. Well, not in the flesh. He's digital.
I never knew his gamer tag.
Yeah, I am still subscribed. People can go listen to... He has I think his YouTube channel is still Preco, and he has like all the music that he produced for the loading screens or login screens for League back like 13 or 14 years ago, just sitting on that channel before they started doing interesting stuff with them. So I thought that was good times. Good old Preco. Please, Arcane Season 2.
Arcane Season 2 2024 confirmed, not 2023 this weekend. I saw there was something about someone saying something, and I didn't click the link because I was in Vegas, but yeah.
Preco says good old Dominion days. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it was fast, it was fun, it was Dominion.
So true.
Move speed Rammus, move speed Yi, just running around capping points. 6 Zeals.
So you and I haven't even really talked about this, but in the past week or so, I'm pretty close to. Maybe this is a weird thing to talk about, but I'm going to just do it anyway. I'm pretty close to inking a sponsorship deal that would send me to MSI, so I'm going to try to book MSI travel. There's a media day that I need to attend on the 30th. And then the sponsorship stuff wouldn't really be kicking in until probably around the last week or so of that. That's when we'll focus the majority of my coverage. So I'm trying to decide. London is so expensive. I'm trying to decide if I want to go someplace else in the UK for like, 5 days or something like that, and take a couple days off of coverage, maybe towards the end of play-ins, beginning of groups. I don't know. Figure it out. But that's like the crazy thing I'm trying to figure out now. And then... So yeah, if people have advice on London, it's just so expensive. That's the thing that kills me. I don't
know anything about it.
London, it's supposed to be. I think it's like the most expensive city in the world.
Is it nice?
I have not enjoyed it in my previous times being there, but you know what it is? It's like they cram all these people on an island, and and then they all fight about it. I don't know. So yeah. Somebody says no shot. You guys should go look it up. Go, all these people in the chat that have no information about this. Go take a look. But yeah, I'm gonna go to London.
Most expensive.
And I would be flying there a week from Friday, which is terrifying. So we'd only have one more Hotline League before I'm in London.
I said, what is the most expensive city? And it fucking listed things by population. What is this? Or is this it's listing them and then population?
You need ChatGPT.
ChatGPT does know everything.
Yeah. Google is dead. It's all about ChatGPT now.
That's actually true.
Google just wants to send you ads and then send you to websites that have just been like optimized for YouTube algorithm that also are covered in ads.
New York and Singapore have been named the most expensive cities in the world in 2022 by the Economist Intelligence Unit.
Maybe that's because the U.S. dollar spiked.
Sounds like typical journalist Travis Gafford misreporting things.
Oh, God. Here we go again. That's what we are going to fight. That's what you decided. We're going to fight on this episode.
I told you I'm going to fight you this episode because otherwise I don't know how we're getting 2 hours of content here.
Well, this is good. I mean, you always say that, and then these episodes end up being very fun because we're not like trying to slam dunk a bunch of information through or something. So I always end up having a good time on these episodes.
They go one of two ways. Either we both have a lot of fun, or I go too far and I push a button I shouldn't have pushed.
Oh,
yeah, don't do that. After.
Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that. Here's what we can talk about a little bit. So this week is the interview that I am doing with John Needham about esports stuff. You and I talked about this a little bit. It sounds like what's going to happen, just to manage expectations for the audience, is because we couldn't get just for scheduling, we couldn't get Naz, who's the head of esports for League of Legends, and John, who's the president of esports, at the same time. I think we're going to kind of break out topics to a situation where in a couple of weeks I will interview Naz. That's probably when I'll get the hey, everyone still wants Dash. Why isn't Dash around more and stuff like that. I think the John Needham interview this week will probably be more around higher level, maybe teams selling and stuff like that. So I think we're going to kind of do a split convo with both of them about different things. But if people have things that they like, this is a good episode to have folks talk about esports stuff or League of Legends LCS stuff, because I'll be looking to convey community sentiment and have it addressed in that interview. And then I guess in a couple of weeks, probably with Naz, probably around MSI. So, yep.
Yeah, I think chat has some good suggestions. The conflicting schedules of finals weekend. I think it's just general LCS stuff. What does he think of the subreddit these days? This is a good one, probably.
What I mean
is that like the sentiment that we were going for at the end of the split? I don't know.
I mean, the subreddit. Can you expand? I'm curious what you mean by that, because I see mixed things on the subreddit.
I basically see that the LCS is dead. It's like the last, I don't know, maybe it's just the last 3 days since I've come back onto it, but it's like, CBLOL is better. Don't mourn the LCS. Be happy that it happened.
I did see that one.
It's like, there's a bunch of these. I will say, anytime there's a LCS is dying post, you check the flare and it's Europe 80% of the time.
Yeah. The CBLOL surpasses LCS viewership, has an LEC icon on it.
And the funny thing was, the first one I think I read got deleted because I probably didn't pass some arbitrary rule,
Yeah.
And so they reposted it again with the rule, because it's I really got to get this story out here,
Yeah,
I do think it actually is, and not to just sound like an NA salty fucker, it is worth talking about because that is crazy.
That CBLOL surpassed.
Yeah, I think it is actually newsworthy. I'm not flaming the European guy for doing it. I just think it's just a correlation that's noticeable.
No, I mean, I think viewership is fair to hit on in that interview, so we'll talk about it, and we can talk about that on the show tonight too. So,
yeah.
I mean, good for Brazil. I think what would be interesting is like, is CB LOL also trending down? I need to see if I can find esports charts.
Let me go slam some esports charts.
Yeah,
quickly.
if you don't have an esports chart account, it feels sometimes like it's hard to find everything you need. But it'd be interesting to see if like, is that because, I mean, obviously the LCS is not, viewership has decreased this split. It would also be interesting to see if CBLOL increased, or it's like even more of a painful thing if CBLOL decreased, but is decreasing slower than LCS.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to their data right now.
Yeah,
but it's being a little finicky.
So, no, I mean, look,
People have said it's a global trend too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I continue to like. I think the annoying thing about this conversation, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, is the LCS viewership getting worse? Absolutely. I am not here trying to like copium out of that or whatever. But viewership, from what I understand, as you said, global trend is down on this stuff. So it would be surprising in some sense if LCS viewership was like climbing a ton when every other league was not doing great. I mean, it would be a good surprise. I would love for us to get to that point, but like, I think it's important to recognize that. I think the other thing is like people want to pretend that LCS is already in the grave. Like, I don't think that's true. We had a lot of people in seats in Raleigh. We did not have it sold out by any means, but like any event that can get that many people into an arena, in my opinion, in a place like Raleigh during Easter weekend, as so many people pointed out, that is not dead. Like, that is definitely not dead. It is just, we're on. It's a, what was the Jet meme? A whirring trend. It's a whirring trend. Yes, the LCS is a whirring trend. So I don't know. I think the people who want to say it's dead are people who want it to be dead, if that makes sense. So I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. I always say that too. Like dead in the internet is like past its prime, which is a very different thing than like it's being shot next week.
Right. If dead meant past its prime, then both Mark and I are dead. You know?
I wonder if I am past my prime.
I think you are. I think we both are.
Well, it depends what you define as prime. Like physical prime,
our
absolutely.
Best days,
I'm never getting that back.
Our best days are behind us, Mark.
But like, I don't think that's true career-wise or like life-wise.
It's never going to get better than it was in 2018, 2019.
I didn't peak in high school, Travis. I'm not like you, who was an all-state football man wearing his Letterman's jacket until he's 35.
Dude, the idea of me peaking in high school is hilarious. Yeah, it never got better than when I was leading a molten core raid as a senior in high school. It
never got better than when I was starting my Pokemon tournament for my all guys Catholic high school in the senior year.
Those were the days.
40 dudes jammed in the basement playing on Pokemon Stadium, dude. Those actually were some of my best days.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
Like shit, you're not wrong, man.
It's never gonna get better. All right, let's. What do you want to do the spiel?
Are we gonna? Nah, I don't need a spiel tonight. I'm just gotta pull topics. But okay. I don't know. You want to help? You should help pull topics.
No,
tonight.
You always ask me to help, and then it causes chaos. You're like, what? Which one did you pull this one for? And like, oh, which order are they supposed to be in? And oh, we accidentally pulled two of the same topic.
Yeah, we're trying to be combative tonight. That sounds perfect. What's the problem?
I am not helping. I will. You need somebody to keep the conversation going while you're doing this. Otherwise, we're both quiet. What? Just reacting to some of the
stuff. There's one take that's really funny because the emojis reacting to it are just skulls.
I think so. So if here's what I will say too is that there's been like bring on the takes that are no doubt bring on the takes that are combative, because here's the thing that drives me crazy about this. There's all these people that come into, we do the show, and then afterwards people flock to the comments and are like, wow, Travis is so wrong about this, or I've listened for years and Travis is so deluded on this thing or whatever. The point of the show is to come on and have that conversation with me here. So like if people disagree with Mark or I about something, now's your chance to come on the show. We'll have a
Yeah, where are
conversation
y'all
with them.
fucking cowards at, huh? You run
Yeah.
your mouth online, fucking 2-follower Andy, and then you're afraid to show up when it matters.
You wouldn't
How about
speak
that?
to me like that on live Hotline League.
What
Have
does
you
that
pulled
mean from
anybody
again?
yet? Oh, you did. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I pulled a bunch of people.
Oh God, you pulled somebody who. All right, well.
You said you wanted hot takes. No one brings them like TomShoe.
Okay.
That's a preview.
I know.
Or also a warning to maybe skip it.
You know, you're getting so many people where our viewership is tanking right now.
People are just no Alt F4.
Dear God. Okay. Well, I see you pulled some folks. That was very quick. Do you want to just go grab one?
Yeah.
It's a good night to try and get on the show, folks, because we have less people in the pleb calls and sub calls section. So, yeah. All right, Mark should be back here in just a second. Oh, he's back. Okay. Hello, Fox. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about the LEC format not being sustainable for the LCS and that it is not going to fix NA viewership.
Ah, okay. Mark just did a blame game on the format stuff, so I'm excited to hear what is up. Go ahead and what do you think?
So the way the LEC format works, for anyone who doesn't know, is that the bottom two teams after a single round robin of 9 get knocked out of the league effectively. And because a lot of any teams' fan bases are so weak or don't have very strong fan bases, if they get knocked out, they're not going to be able to actually grow their orgs, and that won't be sustainable for the LCS.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more on why you think it'll be unsustainable?
I guess, sorry, I'm a little nervous first time.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry.
All good.
I guess I'd say that because those two teams aren't actually playing in the league for effectively 5 weeks out of the 8-week season, there's no way for them to actually develop any sort of fan base or any sort of views or increase the content machine for NA.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess I can kind of kick this off. For me, I don't really feel like bottom orgs are doing much of that right now anyway. And so I guess there's a broader conversation to be had about, like, if you are a team that is not able to build fandom or get attention or anything like that, what is your role in the LCS? I just think, like, here, I'll just say it here. I wish that the LCS only had 8 teams in it. I think that the league would be in a much better place right now if it only had 8 teams. And I think franchising in with 10 was a mistake. And so I do not mind a system that really gets those guys out. And if it's unsustainable for them, then I'm just not sure I care. I mean, I guess you could argue there's some concerns around volatility of those spots for the players. I don't know. But I just don't, it's not something I am particularly concerned about in terms of those, like, bottom tier orgs. I don't know if you have thoughts, Mark.
No, not on that particular point. I mean, I kind of agree with you that, like, yeah, like if we lost, who were bottom two? It was like Immortals and Dig.
Yeah.
Immortals and Dig, yeah.
Was anything of value lost? Like, they're already the lowest viewership games. You could make the argument that by funneling more viewable hours to teams that actually do something with that screen time, that you will actually be benefiting the league in the long term. So, I mean, I don't know about like 10 teams versus 8, like Travis is saying, but at least, like, I don't think there's necessarily a huge problem with it, though. I think, like, I'd be more concerned about the competitive angle for those teams that get knocked out. Like, what do? You just, like, putz around, you still scrim, you know, like, it's a long time to just be doing nothing. So, like, I think there are concerns about it, but I'm not quite sure, like, the viewership angle is the one for me about that, if it's actually healthy. You know, like, coaches are getting fired after like 3 weeks of games. I think, you know, like, you just, like, your team with high expectations, you bust her out in the first round robin and you just, like, headshot, like, ouch. It's a pretty competitive ecosystem. But I also still agree with the take at the core, though, which is, like, I don't know if like the European format, even if it is good, like I'm still holding my judgment of that, which is kind of what I was talking about in the Blink game this week. Like it's done a good job actually for like spring, had pretty good viewership, or winter I should say, and then it kind of dipped, whatever. But like given that NA needs to grow in viewership, it's not going to fix that problem. Like I don't think the format's going to like bring in new eyeballs who like weren't watching League of Legends in NA or something.
Mark, kind of going to your argument about like the competitiveness of those teams. Do you, since you've worked on the team side, do you think you end up in kind of a, I don't, it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy, but maybe like a spiral where it's hard to get out of that that 9 and 10 spot if you don't get to compete as much, and so then the next split you come back and you suck again because you haven't been competing as much as everybody else?
I think it's possible. Like I don't know what Europe's done. I'd have to ask. Like you're one of these teams that gets dropped. Like, are you still able to find scrim opponents? Maybe it's fine there because you have the ERLs, which is more competitive, and it wouldn't translate as well to North America. You start scrimming academy teams while you just wait until the season starts again for you. Like, I don't know. It sounds really rough. I know that a lot of the teams I coached on, we had slumps. We had periods of times where we didn't play well. Like Curse in season 4, both splits. I think we started pretty slow and ended up making top 4 both splits. And in season 5, it was a little different because it was like up and down with Piglet and stuff like that. But like we had stretches where we weren't looking that good. And so like if like plenty of teams streak, like you look at Golden Guardians, they start 0-4, they're just dead in this format, right? Like they just never bounce back probably. A lot of teams just die, because you have to assume the pressure's higher too. So like whatever internal problems you're having are probably harder to work through in such a short time frame. So
actually, yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to go on with the pressure thing is we had 2 players already drop out this last season between Danny and Blaze Olive, and by increasing the amount of pressure on an already heavily pressured ecosystem of the LCS, I really don't see how that's good for the health of the players.
yeah.
Do you agree with that take, Mark?
I think it's a rough job no matter what in terms of mental health. Like I'm not sure. Like relegations being gone, I think is already just so much better.
Yeah.
Like you can make the case that relegations is worth it for the viewers, and like I can buy that argument. But I can say as someone who competed in a time where you had to worry about if you were going to have a job next split, like not just like are you going to get fired, but like is your whole org going to collapse because you failed? Like that was a pretty big level of pressure that is no longer there. So.
I mean, I almost would argue
this is worse.
You could argue that like what is worse, having a shitty team and ending your split early, or just continuing to lose and suck and get beat over the head week after week after week.
Yeah, like was Dignitas in good spirits? I don't know.
Yeah. I would be interesting to be like if you could go back in time, Immortals and Dig and just like get the hell out early on and reset for the next split. Is that less stressful? I don't know.
Yeah, probably. There's probably some cases to be made that it's like you're on a curse situation anyways, so just get out. Yeah. It's like a cursed game, you don't want to be trapped in a cursed game, cursed lobby.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, Fox, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out Alienware and that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one. All right. Mark is off to grab the next caller. Thank you to... Where are we? Got a bunch of subs before the start of the show, but Skeletor, Croissant for 2 years. Thank you, Croissant. Sportsnut, Normal Guy, Rio no Jikuko, Goko, Zachary, and Beef Stews. Thank you all for the subs. It looks like Mark is back with...
Yeah, I'm here.
Silly, where are you calling from? Silas. Okay. Where are you calling from?
Wisconsin.
Oh, another Wisconsin. Can you get a little closer to your mic? You are very quiet.
Yeah, I can try to speak up.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've got you at 200%. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I don't think TSM's leaving. I believe in TSM. I think they're gonna work together with Reggie, and they're gonna reinvest. I don't think it's going away.
Why?
I think NA doesn't want to die, and I think they like to pretend that other teams were gonna take their place. But I think there's a need, and I think there's enough people that want to see TSM that the LCS is gonna work to keep them.
Okay, so you think like LCS, you think that because I'm trying to figure out where you think that the sort of energy to keep or for TSM to stay in the LCS. At first, I thought you meant like TSM itself intrinsically would want to stay in the LCS. It sounds like you're saying as though the league will reach out to TSM and try to make sure that they stick around.
I think they're seeing with CLG leaving. I think they see that they don't want to also lose TSM. So I like to think both Reggie and whoever the commissioner is, LOL. I like to think they're gonna, whoever makes those decisions, gonna work together for TSM and LCS.
Travis, you're a journalist. Tell me how this tracks.
Well, so again,
You have a deep-rooted spy network. You're like Littlefinger, or you're Varys, the spider.
I'll be candid. I don't know what internal sentiment at Riot is about TSM. I have a hard time imagining. I mean that by the way, the TSM fan base is really unhappy with me right now. I get a lot of angry messages.
That's because you
I don't get
started
that.
a bunch of
Why do
shit
they
over
care?
nothing.
We don't care about that.
Oh, no, I mean, I think so. So the most recent criticism of me is that I was like, oh, sad for, hey, be nice to Jackie on the way out. She's leaving with health issues, or CLG, everyone just got laid off. And I was sad there. Whereas with the TSM video that I did, I said specifically, I am sad to see TSM potentially leaving the league, even if we've had our differences. But TSM fans, you should probably find another team. And people are like,
Travis,
wow, no support for they feel as though that is a different approach than the way I approach the commissioner thing.
You're dancing on their graves.
And the CLG thing.
It's kind of fucked up, no?
Yeah, it is. I have already said TSM fans are
Travis is a
incredibly
dick.
passionate, but I do feel like there's a bit of a warping in logic to try to act as though these two things are the same, and my approach has been vitriolic towards TSM. All right, anyway, I don't know what internal sentiment is about TSM on the right side. The challenge is I don't think that TSM as a brand holds the same value that it used to the league. So I think several years ago, TSM was invested a lot in the league. They were having a great deal of competitive success. They had one of the most prolific players ever on their roster. And I think, yes, at the time, they held probably a lot more value to the LCS than they do now. Since then, there's been scandals around Reggie's behavior. There has been other drama, and the team itself is not competitive, and it does not
Pretty competitive. I mean, right up there. I don't know. I've seen some pretty awesome stuff from them.
You think TSM's competitive?
Yeah, like really competitive. Some weeks.
What
Sometimes.
you? I mean, I would look at the results in the standings to see how competitive they are. I will say that they overperformed expectations this split, but I think that was because expectations were set fairly low.
I mean, well, think of last summer. So I was the TSM guy at Chicago last summer. I mean, last summer they made 5th in playoffs, pretty solid, above a bunch of other garbage teams. And then this year, also, fighting right up there with everyone.
Yeah, I would define competitive as making playoffs, not almost making playoffs, I guess is a good way of putting it. And I think even then making playoffs
Team Liquid isn't competitive. No, nobody's competitive.
Team Liquid was not competitive this split at all. Did you watch their games?
I think for a lot of people too, competitive can even sometimes be, for some people, have even higher standards, such as like you are in contention for the title.
Yeah.
If that is for some people the definition of competitive. Whether it's that definition or the make playoffs one, both the teams you just listed missed both those definitions. They were technically competitive for the playoff race in the sense that it came down to the final week. I'll give you that. But that's true for literally every team in the league but two of them. So
I also just don't know, unless it's an organization that feels fully committed or is like really still popular. I mean, go take a look at the. I get that all teams have issues right now, but like, if you go look at the TSM YouTube channel, it does not get what it used to get. You know, if the TSM shows were still getting like 150K, I think that would be a lot different than what they're getting now in terms of like, oh no, we can't lose these guys. And also, I think it depends on what you replace them with, right? So like, if TSM sells to, oh god, I hate to use this analogy, but Mr. Beast or somebody like that, you know, that might be much different. That might be very different. Silas, I don't know if you have thoughts.
I disagree. I think TSM is doing pretty solid. We still got Leffen, absolute killer fighting game player, about to get a bunch of W's.
But what does Leffa do for the LCS?
I mean, you were talking about TSM like the whole like organizational wise. I feel
No,
like
no, I meant
Dota
specifically
and Apex and Smash. And
I think he explicitly meant the LCS branch of TSM.
Yeah. Yes.
So obviously we know Maple's probably out, which we have to assume means they're gonna get an upgrade in mid lane. So
do we have to assume that? Why do we have to assume it?
Because TSM's just always getting better, man.
What?
I believe.
Okay.
But you just admitted they got worse from last split to this split. You just admitted they went from 5th in playoffs to not making playoffs.
I mean,
So they can't always be getting. This is some right wing economics. Up and to the right. Don't look at it. Up and to the right.
So okay. Hey guys, I'm not trying. We're not trying to be rude to you, Silas. I think we're just trying to understand a little bit. You think TSM is always getting better, but obviously they are not as good as they have been in the past, right?
True, because Wild Turtle is warming up.
Wild Turtle is warming up. Okay. What if I told you that last split, according to a document that was sent to all the different teams, if you combined all of the money that TSM spent across their academy, LCS, and coaching staff, that they had the lowest spend in the league?
I think that's I'm a big TSM fan, so I'm aware. I'm aware it's basically Chowie and a bunch of people not getting paid as much as they should be because they're representing the best team in the league. But I do understand that they're not financially right now because they've been kind of burning some bridges. But I believe that LCS is scared to lose them, and they're going to work together and bring it up back together.
I do not believe. I don't hold the same opinion, Silas, I guess is what I would say. Mark, what do you think?
I hope he's right. TSM is an institution, a pillar of the LCS.
Yeah.
And it would be a damn shame to see them step out of the league. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. There's no part of me that doesn't want TSM in the LCS.
Same.
Mark, if you were the commissioner of the league, what would you do? How far would you go to try to make sure that TSM doesn't leave?
Firm handshake.
Thanks so much, Silas, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
You know, same thing as Chicago. We're going to shout out the whole TSM team. Shout out Solo. Shout out Haunter. Shout out Chime. Shout out Maple, the best mid laner, but to be replaced with an even better one, probably. So I just love, and Reggie, of course. Love me some Reggie.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. All right. Well,
I think that was like a quarter of the team still there.
TSM fans, if this ends up someplace, I just want to point out, Mark and I far more. That was the most respectful I think anybody like that would get in terms of shows.
I will say I was absolutely shitposting during it, but I've been shitposting all episode. So if you only watch that take, you might not realize that that's been my energy all night tonight.
Yeah. People say he's obviously trolling. Guys, you got to go look at the TSM subreddit. That's the energy there. Like, that's the energy there. All right, Mark, you want to go grab one more caller?
Sure.
Thank you to... Oh, nobody subbed. I've got no thanks. No, thank you to no one. That's what I'm saying right now. No, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate when people tune in live, especially. It's always fun to have the chat rolling and seeing your responses to everything. So, chat says you're welcome. You guys are great. Yeah, headed to London. I have not booked a ticket yet, and I'm worried about that because it's going to be expensive. All right, Mark is back with... Oh boy, we're just getting them all out of the way in the beginning. With none other... Mark, we got to save these till the end. None other than TomShoe.
Can we save this one to the end? I actually want to put some nuance into this one.
I was going to say, the thing about TomShoe is he actually usually hits on the hot button issues. He just comes at them from a unique angle. So, like, the topic that he's going to talk about, I actually think is a great topic to talk about.
Okay.
And like he's saying, sink some time into.
TomShoe, where are you calling from?
Calling from DC, usual.
All right. What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right. So I wanted to talk about Berserker's leak that the LCS is going to shift to a three import rule. So when I heard that leak, I immediately started thinking back to the last several years of LCS roster building. And when I think about it, I constantly think of all of the loopholes and the exploits and the green card lotteries that have been taking place across this last several years, and it really starts making me think, like, if LCS teams are not going to follow the spirit of the rule and try and shove as many imports into a roster as possible, then I question, why are we enforcing this rule in the first place? Like, are we trying to still put aside that sense of regionality that Mr. Needham discussed several years ago, that he wants this NA to be a region full of North American players? Because it feels like the actions just really aren't matching the words, right? And this isn't necessarily just a NA problem. Like, we have seen pretty much across the entire LOL esports system that, many minor regions and even China have been becoming increasingly dependent on various imports. Like, it's LLA, 2 Koreans. Excuse me, CBLOL, 2 Koreans.
Top 3 were all 2 Koreans.
Yep, 2 Koreans. Yep, China, we've had like multiple Worlds contenders. They at least have 2 Koreans, right? And it really just makes me think, it's like, why are we, kind of enforcing this rule when I don't think it, actually provides the benefits that it is meant to, put across? Because teams are just going to find a loophole around it anyway. So kind of the crux of the argument is that I think that we should just scrap the let Riot Global just scrap the global LCS import rule altogether and just let the individual regions like Riot, NA, Europe, whatever, just let them decide, like, hey, this is what you wanted. This is like, you have free carte blanche. Feel free to go ahead and do whatever you want. And why I think we should do that is that I think by doing that, we'll get a better insight into what the actual Riot NA and what the LCS owners believe is the direction the league should be heading into in the future. Because, think of the back of the day, right? We were signing talent to multi-million-dollar contracts. We had amazing, huge name players like Perks and Crown and shit, and we were going through and we were making money, being popular, and still competing internationally. Of course, we wouldn't make it all the way to the end, but we would still get pretty damn close, right? And, it was fine back in the day, but now we have moved forward, as a league, and now it seems like we are still trying to do both, where we are trying to put across an entertaining and relatable product and be competitive at the same time, and we are not doing either.
Okay.
Right? So
Okay, we're going to cut the filibuster off. You had a good run there.
I actually, one day we should do an episode of Hotline League where we're not streaming it live, but we somehow convince TomShoe that it's live, and we see just how long he would go for.
Oh, I would go.
I feel like
I wasn't even done yet, right?
Yeah.
But
no,
that's your trick, is you're never done.
Yes.
So,
You're
like...
right.
Okay. Tom, at the risk... in 30 seconds or less, can you give a rundown of what happened on the Berserker stream for those that are not familiar? Because you referenced it, but you didn't say.
So Berserker said they are changing the 2 import limits to 3 imports, essentially. So now you have three. Now you have the opportunity to have like 3 non-import players and then 2 resident players. So now it's essentially kind of opening the floodgates, and we just ask ourselves like, what the fuck's the point?
Okay.
Of having import rules.
So,
but
Mark,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say like Berserker. When I watched it, he didn't sound like he knew for certain. It sounded like he said he heard. I don't know.
Well,
but
we are assuming it's true.
Yeah, that's a very big thing that I see people do in the space.
Any rumors is like this is happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it could have been a conversation at a owners meeting that they talked about, and then somehow Berserker hears. Like you don't know where these things come from, but like assuming it's true, for the sake of the argument, it's. I mean, this is a lot of people in chat were saying it too. Based TomShoe, like I don't fully disagree with him. You know. I also feel like it's already to the point where a lot of the top teams are quite limited in. Hold on.
I didn't get to finish my point. I think you'd agree with me even more. But okay.
No,
You
made
had
points.
enough of a
Brevity-
time, Tom.
Tom, brevity is the soul of wit, and if you can't make your point in 12 paragraphs, I worry that the 13th is really going to hammer the point home.
This one is really going to hammer the point home. Trust me. But go ahead.
Thanks for the permission. This is how you get banned off this show, and Travis and I just have this conversation without you here because we're more than capable of discussing our thoughts on this without your permission.
All right, Mark, go. Finish your thought.
TomShoe sucks. The end.
Okay, no. Your thought about the topic, not about TomShoe.
Oh, my bad. My bad. No, I think like there's always like the weird xenophobic angle that people throw around. I think it's fair to be like, you know, representation of like the whole way the league system was set up was that it was the idea that you had these regions going up against each other, and like you're anti-hitman, as you call it, the mercenaries or the boomerangs.
Oh no! I am not anti-hitman.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Travis.
All right, go ahead.
Tom really thinks he's like anytime he shows up, he really thinks he's a co-host.
Main character energy. Okay.
Dude, it's incredible.
What? Just finish your thought, Mark.
It's so hard to finish it. I've been trying for fucking 3 attempts.
What?
Is it going to work this time? I don't know. I think that it's not going to change. You know what? Here's my honest thoughts. It's not going to fucking happen. I think this is a dumb rumor. That's what I think. That's my honest thought. That, you know what? Fuck playing devil's advocate to discuss it. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's happening. I think this is a rumor.
I don't think so either. I haven't heard anything about it. If it happens, I would be surprised. I would not be completely surprised because after this long and seeing LCS move to Thursdays and Fridays and stuff, you actually have no fucking clue. You know,
anything is technically possible, but I think it seems very negative with fans. We're bleeding fans out currently. It seems like I don't know why you would shoot them in the face when you know like we're not that competitive anyways. Like playing for the competitive angle is one that like it doesn't seem to be working. So
the only reason it could happen is because teams are pushing Riot so much for it. But I think Riot, the sense I get, is that Riot is like not as interested in bending to team stuff right now. I do think they are worried about teams going out of business. I don't think they are worried about teams being like, hey, we just need one more import. Please, just give me one more import, please, and then I'll finally win Worlds, please. I just don't think that they care as much about that stuff right now. So I think you could see a world where like the minor regions, quote unquote, have increased mobility into major regions, which is maybe what Berserker is talking about. But I don't think that there's going to be a blanket like, hey, we're going to change from 2 to 3. So
yeah. I also feel like it's such a giant change in the entire ecosystem that like I see a lot of the times in these threads, people are like, Riot bending over backwards for NA again. I
don't feel like they bent over backwards when they moved us to Thursday and Friday. They moved LEC to Saturday. Sunday.
I feel like if anyone's been getting bent over, it's us a little bit recently.
I think LCS was bent over forwards. I don't think that Riot was
over something, some object of some kind. Probably hip height. I feel like the final thing I'll say is like the Osh thing. I get why people feel that way. When like NA was just given Osh, I think that was like just the simplest way in their heads to make that work as like English speaking regions and just slap it together because like the entire Osh office of Riot was like getting kind of clapped up, I guess. So like that one, I can see the point, but a lot of things in recent years I don't really agree with.
Do you think owners believe being competitive internationally will save NA?
Yes, because they've told us that. Like I think that, and I don't want to say all owners feel this way, but I do think that if you go back to the import rule stuff from a couple years ago, that they have always thought, like, they always think, generally speaking, that if I could just win, I'll get viewership. If I can just win, my team will become popular. If I can just win, then viewership will go up. If I could just win, everything changes. And I kind of get it, because it is a competitive sport. The goal is to win. The people who decide to get these teams are very competitive people, and they see situations where, yeah, winning often does make teams more popular. But you can only have one winner at a time. And so everyone basing their whole business strategy, or leagues basing their entire existence around winning, is not a way to run a business. Like, imagine if only one McDonald's in the world, whoever has the most revenue is the one that's sustainable. That doesn't make sense. You need to figure out alternative ways to run a sustainable business. It can't all be about being number one, because there could only be one number one.
So you don't think full Korean teams will save the LCS?
No, I do not.
No, because I mean, like, to take this take seriously, let's say like you abolish the import rule, right? Like, the NA ecosystem is just worse. And so, like, if you go full, anyone can play anywhere. Yes, Korean teams will come, probably play and win NA, like LMQ did. You know, they didn't win NA, but they were like not a super top tier Chinese team anyways. But, like, you know, they would come over, they'd probably win, they would go, and then they would lose to the other Korean teams who have been getting better practice throughout the year. And, like, that you're in the same situation hypothetically, where, like, you're still losing to the other regions as your NA reps, but now there's just like no attachment to them in theory. So like that's to me the logical extreme of what would happen if you, because like at that point the natural factors would take over of the each ecosystem if you have no constraints.
Well, I've talked to people who want to move Academy to Korea, Mark. Legitimately, and you've probably heard of this too from at least one person, that there were people that are like, let's move LCS Academy to Korea. And then I think what we do is we just move LCS to Korea. And then once you have you're able to have 5 Korean players in the LCS, and they're all able to play in Korea every week, how could we lose?
I think geolocation is a genius plan. We just all need to geolocate to Korea.
What do you mean?
And only use Korean players.
That's how you win, though. That's what That's what Riot NA thinks. That's what the owners think.
I don't think that's what Riot NA thinks. Thanks so much, TomShoe, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Can I give a shout out to my boy Yusui? Made an Immortals Challenger, made a deep Proving Grounds run. Amazing person, amazing player, as usual. But yeah, that's all I got.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, y'all.
All right. We're going to take a nice little cool off and a breather from that to talk about Alienware. Go check out the Alienware M18. It's an amazing...
I don't know. This is making me hotter. Talking about Alienware? Whew.
All right, Mark, we're not having you talk about any sponsor stuff today. Somebody earlier in chat said that you're a walking brand risk, and I agree.
What?
I'm just going to... Okay, we're muting Mark for the fucking ad. Thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Go check out the Alienware M18 gaming laptop. This thing is incredible. They're going to send one to me. I'm very excited about getting it myself. You can get up to an RTX 4090 in it, but all the way from 4050s, 4060, 47, 4080 in it. It's an amazing piece of hardware. Absolutely love it. Now available again as an 18-inch display. You can get that in 2560 by 1600 if you do. That's a 165 hertz display, but you can also get it in 1920 by 1200, and that's a 480 hertz display on a notebook with NVIDIA G-Sync. It's fantastic. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We really love having them as a partner. You can use alienware.com/Travis to purchase the M18 or other Alienware products, and doing so actually directly supports the show, given a relationship that we did with them last year. Now, whenever you purchase a product in the US through their website using that link, it actually does support the show. So thank you so much to Alienware. Really appreciate their sponsorship, and can't wait to get that M18 myself. All right. Mark,
Am I unmuted?
you were never muted. What do you you want to go grab the next one?
That's risky. That's a risky lie to tell me.
Oh Jesus! I just trust you. Okay, he's gone. Thank you to Polly550 and Immortal Scrub and Avura for the subs. I have, by the way, some after the show. We're going to be opening some March of the Machine set boosters for those that enjoy that content. Hey, David is here. David, where are you calling from?
New York City. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Same old, same old. Another Monday.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to mention that we need to just give up about caring about online viewership and focus on expanding the LCS roadshows and growing local audiences.
All right, go ahead. And then, Mark, you're going to start this one off.
Am I starting this one off, Travis? I think you're passionate.
You
about
pulled this one, so you're going to start it off. But, David, go ahead and explain why we shouldn't care about online viewership and instead should care about very expensive, uneconomical roadshows.
You say uneconomical, but I'm going to show you a way to profitability on them. First and foremost, in regards to online viewership, quite honestly, I don't know if there's any change that we can make that will ultimately fix or get viewership back to where people, quite frankly, want it to be. I just think it's going to stagnate to where it eventually stabilizes, maybe down 15 or 20% more than where we're at right now. So growing online viewership is not going to be the way to do it. The way, in my eyes, is by activating with local audiences, specifically colleges. You have a bunch of different colleges around the United States that have facilities that not only have esports facilities and equipment already there that you can borrow and lend, but you just have smaller stadiums that are going to be good for a crowd, that you can get out and activate more audiences around the U.S. Because I think getting the product in people's hands and getting them exposure to the LCS, to League of Legends, even if they've heard of the game, they might not have been to the esport, or giving parents a chance to take their kids as well, is going to be the way that you can grow long-term fandom and get people invested into the game beyond just watching it online. Because I think anybody that's been to an event can attest to the fact that it is better to watch in person than it is to watch alone on your couch or even with your friends in Discord.
I pulled this one, Travis, because it's also the Khan take. I don't know if you know who that guy is, Wrath of Khan on Reddit, but every single thread that comes up, no matter what it's about, he's like, I think what we need to do to get more international success is to actually have more road shows would actually be better for international success.
Wrath of Khan and David both have this disease where they have like a bulletin board next to them with 5 different ideas, and then in any Reddit thread, David doesn't do this on Reddit, but Khan does it, where it's like there'll be a news where it's like, by the way, guys, Immortals is bringing treats in, and suddenly Khan will be like, and this is why the LCS viewership, blah, 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 and then it gets upvoted because he's really good at writing about it.
So do you want me to go first? Or do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Okay.
All right. I mean, whatever you want.
David, how did you change the economics? You didn't mention economics, but go ahead and explain to me why this is economically viable.
First and foremost, when you're partnering with colleges, you are reducing the amount of cost that you're probably going to assume, because your response, as it has been historically, is that we have to transport basically the entire LCS studio because that's what they use for the road shows. By partnering with colleges, you reduce some of that cost and allow the facilities that they have there to be of your benefit. In addition to that, you're also opening up additional revenue streams, which is the biggest problem that the LCS has right now, where we're entirely reliant upon sponsorships. You start getting more ticket sales, food and beverage deals, merchandising as well. I know the LCS just launched their own apparel line at finals this past split, but if you can start doing individual apparel drops for the different road shows, you open up different revenue streams that, yes, might be a little bit of a hit at first, but as you grow them over time, you can eventually get it to the point where, okay, you understand where to cut costs in certain corners, where you can maximize others, and get each individual roadshow to just be its own profitable entity itself.
I do not think that you will hit the scale where ticket sales and merch sales will cover the cost of moving around all of the players, all the associated staff, and all of the Riot folks that need to go around for this stuff. And while college clubs and colleges do have some equipment, it is nowhere near what you need to bring to these events in order to actually put on a compelling show. Unless you're going to go like Evo style, where you just have a couple of shitty projectors It's just not like logistically, it's nowhere near what you like. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work out.
And to that point too, whatever online viewership hit that you're saying is hand waveable away because ticket sales to 150 people at a college, that is not even in the ballpark of like what sponsorship deals bring in.
Actually, that's a good
And
question.
when-
How much do you expect? Like, how many tickets do you expect to sell at these things, David?
Give or take about 1,000 to 1,500 at most. I'm not saying big arenas. I'm saying theaters, small gym or smaller scale gymnasiums, more similar to those that have watched Call of Duty, the size of what COD champs will be at the University of Las Vegas.
Okay, so let's say $1,500 a ticket. How much do you sell those tickets for?
Realistically, $50 a piece, and any that you don't sell, I'm giving away to college kids for free.
Okay, so if you I would be very surprised if you can sell 1,500 tickets for $50. But let's say you do. You make $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think it costs to just
turn on the LCS for a single day?
Yeah,
Somebody would have to give me a number because I have no clue.
it's a lot of money. But even just costs associated with, like, it cost me, what was it? It was something like 20 grand to do TGI Worlds Tour last year, and that was just like me and a handful of people in really small venues. Like, it's just not going to break out. And if you're charging all these people $50, then you're going to limit how much you're going to get on merch sales, especially if these are on college campuses where people don't have like a ton of money. I'm sure you have some engineers and stuff from certain areas to come through there, but like the economics of this, I just really don't think work.
No, especially when you start considering like the actual production value. Like the thing that makes the LCS and like set venue locations great is that you have the same setup every single day. And even then we have tech issues. Like you start going to venues where you have no quality control over the equipment that you're bringing, unless you are bringing the equipment, which then offsets your whole point about having venues that have equipment brought in. One, like you're going to have people playing on different mice and keyboards. You're going to have to bring servers. Like people compare this to like road shows for like touring bands, but I'm sorry, the scale of what's like going on here is different. Like Travis's point about the overall number of people you need to like bring, that there's 50 players, a couple coaches, all the talent, camera ops, league ops, like anything that you're going to need to bring that like these places aren't going to have. You're going to have different quality products across the board. And then you're going to try and pitch that to sponsors, but they don't know what they're going to get on any given day. The online product is going to be terrible as you go back to like massive delays and audio issues and whatever you're going to have. Like, no offense to the Mr. Beast tournament, I had fun watching it, but like that's like the production you get a lot of the times in these like more amateurish setups, you know, like.
And that was Amazon putting it on.
Okay, well, to respond
So like,
to that, though,
my point is just like there's so many problems that you're going to have with this idea. It's not just like finals weekend every weekend. Like, you know, that's nowhere close. Like not even in like, you are several steps down from that if you were going to do like a road show. And even then, I don't even think the costs ever make sense.
So my question then would be, if you're saying that the quality of these is going to go down, how is Call of Duty able to do 5 of these in a shorter period of or a shorter stretch of time?
Oh, dude,
and the quality.
Wait until you hear about
all throughout.
Wait until you hear about Overwatch League. There's a lot of people doing a lot of very ambitious stuff in the space. I don't know if
Call of Duty's been doing it since 2007, to be fair, and they arguably toured more back in the older, or from 2007 until they franchised in 2018.
Are you talking about like MLGs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so MLGs were running. MLG is not what the LCS should aspire to be. Those were in convention centers. The very first event I worked at, I was a stage host for an MLG, and it was sitting. League of Legends was in a corner with a tiny stage. The players were playing at on fold out tables next to the stage, and they had me like doing an interview from the pit where people could barely see me because the lighting was so bad. And they're in these giant convention halls where there's very little branding on fold out chairs that are super uncomfortable, and everybody complained every MLG, but they understood that it was like, okay, well, this is esports and it's this tiny little thing, and like maybe one day it'll grow into something big. I don't think that MLG roadshows are the path to profit. And by the way, the other thing MLG did was they charged people money to watch HD video, and that was one of their major revenue sources, was charging people for
Paywalls.
Yeah, paywalls and stuff like that. So, like, even then, I don't think that they were making a ton of their money off of these convention center events.
Well, and like, unless I'm wrong, how much of that, like, didn't teams pay their way there?
Yeah.
Right? Like, the thing that you're forgetting, again, with comparisons to MLG and tournaments, is you're often like not necessarily paying for 50 plus people in this one day event to show up and play 1 day of games or 2 days of games.
That event was, I was flown to Rhode Island, and I was put in a hotel room with 3 Halo people who just LAN partied all night while I slept in my bed and did my best to sleep before I had to work the show. And I was paid $400 for that weekend. And it was the coolest thing ever because I got to go work at MLG, and I was super happy to do it.
Yeah,
but like,
and to be fair, this is not a shot at those like grassroots tournaments.
Right.
I love those grassroots tournaments. I have like I said, I've done my own fucking events. Like I talk about like the fucking Pokemon tournament in my house. I'm not kidding. I really did that. But like, there's a difference when you're talking about running this as a multi-billion-dollar company that Riot is, and trying to be, this premier product. And like these experiences, and those experiences are valuable in their own right. But like, if you're talking about how to save NA, like at this point, you're just actually kind of punting and saying like, we don't think this like franchise league doesn't exist anymore. Now we're going back to the old days. It's kind of like what you're saying. And it's like, okay, but like, it's actually just a really different like paradigm at that point.
Not exactly. You guys are very much focusing on the old days of that. I'm saying even when you go into Black Ops 3 and later days where, even when it went back to Twitch, like those aside, and when Esports Engine started taking over, you were still touring and doing those events. The ultimate point of all of this is to try and grow fandom at a grassroots level, which we are not currently doing for the LCS. And I don't see any way, without hitting the road more, that you start activating those communities.
But how is moving the LCS a grassroots thing? Like, when I think grassroots, I think collegiate esports.
Or tournaments,
yeah, like local community stuff.
If you can start activating local communities. So say you have an event that is consistent. I mean, I'll use New York, even though I'm biased for it. I understand all of that. If you have an annual event here, even for just a super week of the LCS, if you combo that with other tournaments that are going on here locally, if you combo that with normal watch parties, you start developing a consistent LCS fan base here that you can consistently get money from, that these events will grow it. And then it's easier to say, okay, yeah, League of Legends is back here on this weekend each year. It's going to happen. And you start building, and those tickets become more sought after, and you just start growing fandom. Even if it's 10 more people than it was before, good, it's done its job. I
just feel like it's a little bit like, just draw the rest of the fucking owl whenever you say this stuff. Like, in terms of like, oh yeah, just do all this stuff. Like, how much, okay, New York is your world. Like, LCS was there with a major international event for weeks on end. How much has it changed the face of New York esports since then?
I mean, honestly, we're still recovering from COVID, but numbers have been growing. We've held watch parties every other week this entire year, and they've been growing day by day.
Okay, and do you think that you couldn't have held those watch parties if it wasn't for Worlds being there?
No, we've had them consistently since 2017.
So I mean, I don't know why you need, like, Khan is in the chat, who we referenced earlier, and was like, get LCS out of LA, LOL. Like, I always feel like, okay, I like roadshows. I want to be clear here. I like roadshows. It is very, like, affirming, quite frankly, for me as a person who creates content, to go to these things and meet people in person and like have these cool moments and have somebody's like, this is my first event. I don't want this to be perceived as like Mark and I hate roadshows. I think the challenge is that, like, there is not much evidence to me that, for instance, Rathacon says LCS needs to actually get back to trying to grow a community through live events. Online is not building any community. Like, the stuff that built LCS esport or League of Legends esports was the online viewership. Like, it wasn't like, wow,
yeah, this is
season
a
one
backwards interpretation.
Season 1 went to Jönköping, Sweden, and they held their finals at DreamHack. And after that, everyone became a huge League of Legends fan in fucking Jönköping, Sweden, and it spread like a virus throughout Sweden. And then that viewership, that became a thing where LEC was able to exist. No, what happened was they had over 100,000 viewers watch season 1 finals. Well, over much more than that, but at a time, people were like, "Wow, this viewership is really good online." And more people started tuning into live viewership. It wasn't IPL and Vegas and the like small audience that was there in Vegas that activated League of Legends esports. It was the content on the broadcast and seeing Christina V do Riven impressions and Reggie awkwardly running off and us doing a live
I
hotline
listened
league,
to
like,
Bubble Pop for 12 hours.
and an awkward Hotbid Loco Doco interview. Like all these different things that that really grew the sport. And that was all content that was being positioned online that drew people in. It wasn't like, oh, golly gee, now we've got IPL and 400 people in the audience, and now Vegas esports is going to blow up, and that's going to grow League of Legends esports. Like, do I think Riot could do more to activate in cities and do cool things, and could the teams to be doing that? Yes, but I don't think that, like, the road shows are the way to do it. The road shows are there to serve as moments where you can create a peak for the league, where you're able to say, like, we're going to Raleigh, who's going to make it to Raleigh? Like, the fact that Golden Guardians made it to play on stage in Raleigh, their first time they ever did that, that was a big moment. I actually think that if they just get to play on stage in random college arenas every couple of weeks or whatever, that is actually detracting from the value of these things. So I don't know.
I'll throw 3 things in here quickly. Number 1 is that, like, to Travis's just draw the rest of the fucking owl, like, without knowing the numbers, like without, like, the devil's always in the details, right? Like, if you don't know how negative such an operation would run you, then you don't even see the reason why not to do it. So it's, like, very easy to then justify it because you don't even know what you don't know, right? Like, this is how we're going to do it. It's like, great, it doesn't make any logistical sense. It's like, I don't know the logistics anyways. Like, that's a concern for, like, when you're pitching ideas. The second thing is there are people are always like, get the LCS out of LA. Like, there's no benefits to the fact that, like, we are using a Riot-owned building in this area where there's, like, all this Riot infrastructure that they have specifically built to be, like, their campus and stuff like that. Like, the LCS arena, from, like, a real estate standpoint, is like a pretty good deal for them. They can, like, run all this stuff through there. And I feel like I don't know a ton about the entertainment industry. I'll own that one, but, like, there's a lot of talent around here. Like, for people who actually run cameras and know, like, live production of shows and stuff like that. Like, so, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, like, maybe moving to somewhere else cheaper makes sense, especially, like, with the servers in Chicago. Like, there's a lot of questions around that, but, like, I feel like people just go, LA is the most expensive city in the world, and don't look at, like, anything else.
They don't realize London's the most expensive city in the world.
It's San Francisco. We went over this. It's San Francisco.
Actually, New York City passed all of them this past winter.
Poggers. Anyways,
travel
point
to
is,
New
like,
York City and do an event there.
Like I'm not saying. So here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's no cons to being in LA, but I'm also saying that people never acknowledge the pros to, like, why it's here in the first place a little bit. So, like, you know, that one's more debatable to me, but I think at least I have to devil's advocate for its existence in LA a little bit. And then the third thing I was going to say is the thing that people often say all the time is, like, well, we can't just keep doing the same thing. We can't just keep hosting it in LA. And it's like, that is such a flatlining of everything going on in the ecosystem to just say that we're doing the same thing. Because I would argue that there's been a number of decisions that might be hurtful or harmful to the product or something. You know, like, crazy idea. Was this viewership change a good idea or not? That was definitely not the same thing we did last year, guys. Like, I think you can look at these kind of decisions and separate them into different categories and try and see, like, what's causing the problem. So, like, I think this is something a lot of people do. It's just like, the LCS has done the same thing for 4 straight years. And it's like, no, 3 years ago we were online. 2 years ago we did this, like, weird made by many thing, and we were, like, all over the days. Like, we were Friday, Saturday, Sunday sometimes, or was it Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Like, who even fucking knows? We also made summer splits or spring splits record carryover to summer split, which had the biggest negative impact in a single split of viewership we've ever seen percentage wise. Like, I think that matters. Hey, then we seem to be maybe getting a groove last year towards the end of summer. I don't know. It seemed like sentiment was turning around. And then we had a bunch of very unpopular decisions in the community's opinion, and viewership's down this year. Like, these are all things that are going on in the ecosystem. And it's not like we just sat in LA with our thumb up our ass and nothing good or bad was happening around it. You know, it's not like we literally did the same thing year over year. So like that is, again, just a total misrepresentation of the ecosystem. And when people make arguments like that, when people say we've done the same thing every year, that doesn't make me think you're right. That makes me think you're either straw manning the situation or like oversimplifying it, or you don't understand the situation, which is like neither one of those makes me like compelled to engage in this topic, because it doesn't seem like you actually, not you, I'm not saying you, by the way, David.
No,
I'm speaking more generally here. That like when people make this argument in this way, it's like, this doesn't compel me because I don't think you understand the complexity of the situation.
I'll also say that like what got me into esports was not a viewing party. What got me into esports was watching esports online. And I know that there are probably some people that go to live events and they get converted, and I think it can be really great. But I think that choosing to focus on in-person in a digital age around a global sport where people are able to watch it online for free as we're heading into a recession or whatever people want to talk about.
As on average, your viewership was 40 to 50% European anyways, when it was on weekdays.
When roadshows, whenever in the early days of LCS, EU, and NA, roadshows actually showed decreased viewership when they did them. I just don't. It's really hard for me to understand why that would be a good idea.
Can we at least agree on this compromise? If there are
No.
going to be 3 splits of LCS, there should be 3 road shows for finals.
I agree with that.
Okay.
No disagreements there. If only because like the European finals in winter felt weird. It just was like
They should
we're here
they should
now.
not call like I would hate to lose. Like I will be vocally frustrated if us moving to 3 splits, if that ends up happening, will make us lose one of our live events. Like I will just be like, are you kidding me? We're gonna like the whole point of the COVID stuff was like it feels really bad to have a finals where like you're just in the same space. And so I'll be very annoyed. But would I be surprised if that's what Riot tries to do? No, because they've already done it in Europe. So
well, and this brings us back to what Travis says. Like neither Travis, despite how much we've argued about it in this call, like Travis and I are not opposed to road shows in general.
Yeah.
It was
like
more
road
the
shows.
sustainable economics of road shows as a replacement for the LCS. That's the contention point. But like both of us
Understood.
like road shows, meeting fans. I think it is a good way to like. I think, despite what Travis said about like a lot of us get hooked because of the online stuff, I think a fair number of people also have a memorable experience at an in-person show that's really cool and they become fans. Like
it deepens
I do
fandom
think
for
that-
sure. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. My philosophy is not that you're not going to get as many people to watch the LCS at a road show for their first time and automatically fall in love with it. I think the road shows are meant, like, you will end up liking the product by watching it online, and you will then fall in love with it by seeing it in person. And I think that's the natural progression of it.
I would be surprised if this like here's the reason I'm a little worried that they won't do 3 road shows for LCS next year is because they're also going to do, I mean, presumably if this ends up being the case, they would do 3 international events. And so I'm like, we're going to go from 4 travel moments to 6. That would just be a lot. And I mean, that would be fun and interesting, but I worry a little bit about how much they'll manage that stuff. So we'll see.
Well, and since we were talking about the European one just a little bit, like the fact that they had to turn their studio on for an extra day, was that some of the costs that had to get eaten up for a live event and why they only?
Yeah, I really hope we don't do 3 days of LCS next year. But I guess we'll find out next time on Pokemon. All right.
On Hotline League.
Thank you so much, David, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout outs to all the sponsors of Hotline League. Shout out to Numi. Congratulations on the role within FlyQuest. That's a big deal and a big game for not only the organization, but
yeah, they poached her.
Yep.
And she, instead of doing free community work for us, she got a job?
Oh no, she got paid. It was not a lot.
We paid her?
Yeah. I believe in paying people. No, she's going to keep doing stuff with us. Though she said she's going to keep doing stuff with us, and then she's nowhere to be seen tonight. So,
what? She was in chat, or she said something at the start in Discord.
She was in subtopics, so I know she was there at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see her in the mod list right now on Twitch. So
I don't believe in paying people. I'm an OG esports enthusiast. If you don't give me your first 1,000 hours free, you're probably not going to make it in this business.
Hustle
So
culture
Mark,
at its
given
finest.
that, you and I should have a conversation about our relationship.
Bro, I'm pretty sure I gave you way more than 1,000 hours.
And I paid you for
Already,
those. I've paid you for each and every
paid
one of
my-
those. So what I think
don't
is that
know.
I have a backlog of credit that I have
I
received.
don't know. If we go back to those first days, was I invoicing you for Hotline League when it was Yumi and Kelby? I don't think I was.
I need to. I think so because I think we had a different PC sponsor for those shows. We did.
I'm not
We
sure.
did.
Kelby says nope, so I'm going with Kelby. You didn't pay me.
I wasn't paying Kelby, but I was paying. Kelby doesn't know what I was paying. I was giving you some of the revenue
I
from.
think I was the only one not getting paid.
Yeah, Kelby was not getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelby, want to come back on the show for free, by the way?
I tried to get him on tonight for free, and he says, no, I've got to play Total War Warhammer because of the new DLC that just dropped. So I tried to get him on because I figured him talking about esports winter stuff is good. But he's available for the chat. He says, my campaign is amazing. Kelby, I wish
Has
you
he
put
been
that
here
much
the whole
effort
time, or did he just show
into
up?
making sure that I got campaigns with sponsors. All right. Thank you so much, David, for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thank
Good
you.
topic,
If you
man.
want to see my portion of this, catch it on YouTube. David Shynock.
See ya.
Adios.
Patrick, where are you when I'm being flamed? He has an email to my prospective MSI sponsor. So yeah, go hit up Patrick. That's what you should be doing, managing him. All right, we got another caller. We got another 2 callers. Thank you to Avura, Zaya Fire, John G365, Corey Lulu, Evil Trenton with 1744 bits. That's very generous of you. Thank you. I don't know how you got to 1744, but that's cool. And St. Louis Slayer 24 for 58 months. My God. Yeah, Tracy, we talked about it at the start of the show. I will be in London. I'm flying next Friday, which is very soon and very scary. My God. Okay, Burt is here. Burt, where are you calling from?
Tasmania, Australia.
Oh, that's cool. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that some form of salary cap is required to keep parity in teams in the league, and it would support the ecosystem by essentially forcing teams and adjacent teams to support and foster new talent.
Bert,
based
how
on
much
how
do you
a salary
know?
cap would work.
How much do you know about American labor laws?
I know that salary caps are hard to introduce, particularly you sort of need you need players essentially sort of having unions and agreements.
Yes.
That's why I didn't say there has to be a salary cap, but some form.
Well, the interesting thing about some forms are that usually they run afoul of labor boards in the state that they're introduced in because many corporations would love to have some form of salary cap and or collusion. And I think sometimes they try to figure it out. And there was what was the case that happened with all the tech companies like a decade or I don't know 15 years ago where they all had like a sort of silent agreement around what a salary should be, and then they all got wrecked by the government. Big old Panda says another issue with being in California. Yeah, we should move the LCS to Mexico so that we can artificially cap the income
Travis,
of the players.
did you realize that if you just were in international waters, none of these problems would exist?
Yeah. So people,
what is maritime law around labor unions, huh?
people in chat say, well, the NBA does, and the NFL and NHL does. Guys, what do you think that those sporting or Mark? You know what? I just realized Mark has turned this episode into the how much can I fucking make Travis go insane by the end of it. He's intentionally going.
If you hadn't noticed, this has become like the common sentiments on the internet that we have talked about before. Usually,
Yeah. Mark, is the next one going to be about moving the LCS to Chicago?
no. The next one's actually about MSI and CLOUD9.
Okay, thank God. I can't do it much longer. All
Okay, so the reason is because I think every sports league in America that has a salary cap has collective bargaining with a union of the pro players. And so the pro players, through this union, are making a deal with these orgs on what this salary cap should be then.
But the
That
LCS
doesn't-
has a union, doesn't it?
No, it has an association
Yeah,
of players
like a
who will not. They are not interested in, I think, making less money. So here's the thing, Bert. This is okay. Here's the thing. Kelby in the chat says TSM isn't worried about the salary cap; they're worried about the salary floor.
Y'all want to make a salary cap? We should lower the floor.
I mean,
get back down to those. Remember when it was 25K a split? Those were the good old days. There was higher viewership there, so correlatively,
as we've paid players more money,
viewership has actually gone down. Viewership is inversely correlated with pay.
Yeah, honestly, it's not.
It's
actually,
not. There is. I say it. Pro players will have to work a lot harder and other
incentives skewed when you start making $1 million a year. All right, so
college football says hello. I mean, I guess that's a point about the NCAA being.
Don't they not pay their players? Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing is like you're getting an education. Well, we make billions of dollars off you.
Yeah, I'm not sure we should look at the NCAA. All right.
Yeah.
They figured out the salary floor very well. That's the salary floor TSM.
Oh, they get paid now? Okay.
Sick. Okay. Here we go.
Sure
Bert,
it's fair.
First off, how's Tasmania these days?
It's all right. It's been raining a ton, but otherwise it's fine.
Okay. Honestly, same. But here's the better answer to your question. One, I don't think that it is needed as much anymore because salaries are already starting to tank. This year, looking at the salary information from teams, which I need to get a second source on so they can put it out, it's dramatically lower than it was last year.
Yeah. So can I just interrupt on that?
Yes, go for it. Thank you for asking, Tom.
Just on the basis of like a salary cap, I'm not really interested in like, how much any particular player is paid, because that the league will figure out how much that's worth. But I mean, like, I suppose the idea behind it is essentially that if you cap like how much a team can spend on players in particular, at like let's say arbitrarily like 1.5 million, and they've got 1.5 million to allocate to each player, assuming that you're able to catch like all these like sponsorship deals that might come in, then you sort of foster an environment where a player is worth whatever the sort of everyone says is worth. And presumably when you're introducing these systems, you have to also like have like trading times. Like you have to actually really look at when you're trading players and other stuff. So in particular, I'm like thinking of the Australian Football League. They've got specific salaries. They have like specific rules about how you can trade players. Like only 10 years ago, they introduced like free agency. But it's like it sort of sets an equal, fair playing field. So every team knows, okay, I've got this much to spend. This is how much I can spend. I can spend a little bit extra on like developing new talent for next year, so I can bring them in at like cheaper. And it essentially also means that, I suppose, if you think of players as products, then it means that if you're suddenly like selling a bunch of products, then it means like your academy leagues and like other leagues like associate will be more interested in providing those products because they might have a high turnover. But if you're selling like, I think the example I was thinking of was like if you, let's say in like the LCS, you've got your Bjergsen, who like you sort of their quantity, and let's say that they go for like Bjergsen goes for anywhere between 500 to 800,000, and over like a period of 5 years he's proven his worth, and he fluctuates somewhere in between that depending on his performance. But you'll have someone who comes in like your blue, and comes in, buys in at 100,000, and then the value drops drastically. So you sell it off, and someone else is you got to pick it up. So it sort of forces everyone to like work around the value of a player relative to like the roster, and it sort of means that more likely teams are going to move around players. Players are going to look around to change, and I think the sort of problem lies in the fact that you don't have a system that actually supports that. Like, you don't have the unions, you don't have the laws that sort of support it. And the more I'm thinking about it and like actually looking at the American system right now, just the Wikipedia page is sort of telling me the issues relationally to my understanding.
So I think a lot of that stuff already kind of exists, right? Like there are agreed upon, like the one, you only have 10 teams in the LCS, and so you're never going to get to a point where like everyone has an agreed upon value. Like one team's player that they think is terrible might be another team's savior. And I also think that like because you have like we're at a point in time where teams are definitely going to spend below the salary cap if there is one, like, and so I think that changes stuff because you have like the difference between what a FlyQuest and a TSM is interested in spending right now is dramatic, and I don't think that changes even in a world where, unless you have a very low salary cap, like that will still be very different. And so I don't think that the salary cap really changes the fundamental value of the players and their contracts and their buyouts and all that stuff the way that you think it would. Though I do appreciate that you have a more nuanced take than like, these players are overplayed, make sure that they get paid less, which is I think what the common Reddit sentiment is.
I mean, I think also the callers, like I personally enjoy sports with salary caps. I think it's just usually better. I don't know if they're always fair to the pros or whatever, but like, I think there's a case to be made that like, sure, it might not be a problem now, but for future proofing, you can try and find a system that works, as well as, to his point, like, a lot of times the salary cap adjusts based off like general income of the league and things like that, so
yeah,
like,
it's usually a percentage of revenue.
Yeah, so like as it fluctuates for the LCS, this thing would be auto adjusting in theory, and like you don't need to quite worry as much maybe about like over expenditure of some kind or something like that. So like, it's not like I'm opposed to a salary cap, but like I think there are hurdles, and like I admit that I don't know everything that goes into forming a union. I would guess it's somewhat difficult.
It's expensive and difficult, yeah.
Yeah, so like the things that you need to clear to make this work from the most traditional perspective feels pretty unassailable right now. And maybe there's like some shortcut ways, but Papa Smithy in chat, and I don't know if, exactly what happened, but he said that like Overwatch League tried to do something like this and they got pinged on it or something.
Yeah, there was a salary situation there and some sort of guidance, and they got wrecked, which was very funny. So, yeah.
Bobby Kotick.
Savvy businessman. So I don't know. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think there's a lot of challenges that it would face, Burt, and even then, I just don't. I think a couple years ago it could have done more good than it would have done than it would do now, because I think that we are facing a world where like these things are kind of correcting, and it's not as much of a worry. So, and you said it would increase movement. I actually think there needs to be decreased movement in the league. So. We'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Not particularly. I just enjoy your content. It's good to listen to. So I suppose keep up discussion, and even when you make some inflammatory comments, it's always interesting to see the drama that it feels around it, particularly in relation to TSM.
Ah, yes, yeah.
So, yeah.
I make the least inflammatory comments about them, so
that's why it's interesting when you make them.
Yeah, I think maybe that is fair. Maybe they have an expectation that everybody else will do.
Keeping engagement with the LCS.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, cheers.
Travis, you mentioning too much turnover. Like everyone has their thing, right? Like we were bagging on Khan a little bit for like his thing.
Has Khan done a survey, Mark?
No, but it doesn't matter. My point, I'm not going that you're right or wrong. I'm just saying like everyone has their thing. I was like, what's my thing? Because your movement.
I mean, I know what your recent thing is, but I don't think we want to. I'm not sure if you want.
Yeah, that's not like I haven't said that publicly. What's my public thing?
I don't know if you
have
a public thing at the moment.
Okay.
You just
go with the wins.
Yeah. No, you have your very strong private opinion, which I don't. At some point in time, you should do a blame game on it if you aren't able to see the results of that you want to see. I think.
Yeah.
So
What, my exit interview?
not exit. You could talk about that stuff, I think, and it wouldn't be an issue for
I
you.
don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I talk about all the time. Mark has opinions on the business of LCS that he'd like to see handled differently, and I don't think it's. I don't even really agree with him. Actually, we should just at some point in time we should have a conversation about it in content because it's interesting, and I disagree with you on several things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, Numi's back in the chat. She left and now she's back. She heard we were talking shit, and now she's returned to defend. Thank you to Gabby for the 27 months. Good to see you. Shout out to Gabby's new musical release.
Of course, there's a secret private opinion. I learned that one from Hillary Clinton. You have your public-facing persona, and then you have your.
What is up with you and the political references tonight?
I don't know, dude. Like people on Twitch are like, "Man, Mark's on one tonight," and I was like, "I said that from the beginning. I said from the very beginning." I was
but people come in and out of the stream at times. But yeah, Mark is pretty unhinged tonight.
It's a basket of deplorables. That's what Twitch chat is, man.
Caller, how do you pronounce your name?
Littletree.
Littletree. Oh, right. You were on previously. I was flamed because people were like, how do you not know how to pronounce Littletree? And Littletree's name on Discord is not in Romanized letters or alphabet. All right, Littletree, what do you want to talk about? Or remind everyone where you're calling from.
Toronto.
Toronto, right. What do you want to talk about on the show?
JDG is going to beat C9 3-0 at the MSI finals.
Ah! This is a great take because it says that C9's making it to the finals, even if they get stomped, which is
I would love to get 3-0 in the finals again.
Yeah.
Some of my fondest memories were staying up late, everyone getting together in the Team Liquid Alienware facility to watch them go up against G2 and then lose in the fastest international finals ever at that point in time. That was a good memory. Core memory unlocked there.
Dude, do you think C9 can speedrun the Team Liquid record?
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be faster.
Oh!
Well, doesn't G2 own the record now for their loss to FPX?
FPX?
I'm not mistaken.
Well, at the very least, they can end the MSI record. Even if it's not
I think MSI might still be owned. Record. Yeah.
A good old G2. All right. So, Littletree, why do you hold this opinion?
Or Damwon? Yeah, whatever.
How do you hold this opinion?
I think, with how teams are trending right now, C9 actually has, I don't want to use the word momentum, but I feel like the way they play and with how the patch is going to be for 13.8, I think it's pretty easy for them to beat T1, Gen G, and then any of the three teams, G2. They already beat GG Golden Guardians, and then Billy. They're not. They don't seem like they're on their game, and I think it's gonna be pretty. Like they don't even have to beat all of them because JDG will do half
the
even
work
with the losers bracket in a sense. So I think let's say versus T1, I think T1 they're like. They lost their finals. They're kind of, and then they lost the world finals. They're kind of like chokers now.
But what? Sorry, can I cut in really quickly before we go team by team? What about 13.8? Do you think will make C9 a super team?
Blabber is just going to be Blabber, and then they will only lose to Kanavi and Knight.
Do you remember Blabber at the last MSI being Blabber?
Hey, bad jungle meta. Rumble Morgana. What the fuck is that?
Okay. Yeah, Morgana's going to be played mid versus all these LeBlanc players.
Okay. So you think so? It sounds like your take is mostly Blabber's going to carry C9 to finals.
It's his time.
Blabber and Fudge.
Blabber and Fudge.
I think some of the top laners are pretty good.
Okay. Mark?
Travis, do you have a strong opinion after watching all the other regions closely?
After watching,
as you do?
Well, I'm still processing all the data that I pulled from those matches after watching them. I have a spreadsheet and I'm kind of going over the stats and doing a breakdown of pick and ban and all that stuff, and then analyzing the patch notes for the new meta that we're headed into. But since I don't have that available yet, Mark, do you have any opinions?
Yeah, I have watched very little of every other region, and so I can confidently say that North America is the best.
Unbelievable.
Ignorance is bliss. And until I'm proven wrong, I can say this because
It's the American way. It's the American way.
Every year is a reset, and so until we start losing internationally, we are just as good as every other region.
Okay, it will say that this is the most with ignorance as to the other regions, which disqualifies me from being able to talk too much about the matchups.
This is the best team we've ever sent.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to think. I think we had this conversation on the live hotline league, Mark, but it's been a while since I've been as excited and confident, and I think that the North American scene has been as excited and confident in a team as they are with this C9. Like, I'm trying to remember Worlds 2021, but I'm definitely more excited about the C9 than I was in any of our Worlds outings or international outings last year.
Well, that's what I was kind of saying is last year people were pretty hot on C9. It was just that they thought their group was pretty cursed.
Yeah. But I'm more hot on this C9 than last year's C9.
I'd agree with that. They've looked better for a longer period of time. I have my concerns about like M&S on the big stage, and how is he gonna, like, not to say that he's worse than other mids we've sent before, but he feels a bit like a glass cannon. Like he's going 10-0 or 0-10, and like against people and teams that are just generally going to be better than you. That sounds like you're trending towards the 0-10 more often. So like that's a little scary. I think Sven didn't have a great finals. I think that was just a bad weekend. But like Berserker and him had a bit of a rude awakening last Worlds, and I think they've gotten better since then. But like, I hope they do better. Fudge had a bit of a rude awakening. Like it's tough. It's fucking international competitions are hard. So like, on the one hand, I do think this is a very good C9 team. This is not a shot at them, but like, is this such a better C9 team that we should expect an overperformance compared to North America's typical performance? And that I'm not so sure on.
I am going into MSI with zero expectations for Golden Guardians or for C9.
I think Golden Guardians should get through. All right, River is the PCS champion. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I guess I should say that's my maybe that's my one expectation, is that NA gets out of plans.
Yeah, if like there's a world where we don't win a best of 5 in the main stage.
Yeah.
That's very possible. I don't like, depends on if we like bump into Europe. I will say I've been watching Europe a little bit since we finished, and there's just like they're still going on. Like, it's funny memeing about like Mad Lions going and whatnot, and
it seems like there's a lot more doomerism around EU going this year, which has given me a little bit more like, depending. I do feel the combination of C9 looking cool and EU, like hearing rumors and whispers of a weakened EU has given me a little bit more hope for outperforming EU.
I think that because it's like the return of championship points and some wonky things can happen, people are assuming that they will happen, and then therefore they will have sent bad reps. But I feel like what will happen is that like they'll send 2 good teams. Like I don't think that Europe's great right now. Don't get me wrong. Like, I just think
we outperformed them at Worlds last year. I think there's only a better chance of us outperforming them again this year at MSI.
EU is on a downward trend. They are on a worrying trend. People say North America's on a worrying trend. Look at Europe. You guys used to make world finals, MSI finals. We never did.
Kelby says we got completely fucked at Worlds last year. Yeah, you know what our record was against EU? It was a winning record. We won more games against Europe than we lost. So,
Rogue,
who got fucked?
Bugged their way out of group stage. Europe should have had no teams getting out of groups either, but they just fucking bugged their way out. Lucker dogs. Scummers.
Was it 5-3? Was that the final record? I think it was.
We don't talk about MSI and EU EG going 0-8 versus them. We don't talk about that.
Yeah. We're talking about Worlds last year, not MSI last year.
Yeah. We don't talk about data we don't like. All right, we don't like that data. That's bad data.
Kelby says you guys have somehow forgotten the gap continues to get bigger, not for a man who wouldn't come on the show. He seems to have a lot of opinions on this fucking show.
What,
Kelby
is he talking
says
about the gap between EU is
yeah,
growing?
yeah. The gap has gotten smaller over time. Kelby,
Dude, we're headed for Pangea, motherfucker. We're not. The gap is not getting bigger.
yeah, we're not talking about NA in the world. We're talking about NA in Europe. Why
I
are we
don't
arguing with
acknowledge
Kelby in the chat if
LPL
he
or
refuses to
LCK,
come on the show?
because this is fun. Because I'm having a good time.
All right. Anyway, Littletree, thank you so much for the call. We'll see, and I'm hopeful that you are right, and I will remember this take, and you will come back if it ends up being that. I wish that you had just said C9's making it to finals against JDG, boy, instead of being like C9's going to get stopped by JD. It's like you have to temper your NA hopium with a negative take, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Anything you want to shout out?
Just to finish off, we only have to win 3 best-of-5s to make it to the finals. We can technically beat EU twice, and just because it rained last year doesn't mean it's going to rain this year.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right.
NA averages less than 1 best-of-5 win per international tournament. We only need to win 3 guys to make finals. Short path. Short path there.
It could happen. Kaori Lulu says, I'll shave someone's head if C9 doesn't make finals. That's a great... I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing bets where I'll be like, Mark, if C9 doesn't make finals, I'll shave your head. That's how confident I am in...
I'll shave a random fan's head. Next video is...
I'm going to start pitting all the Otis...
Does anyone need a haircut?
Mark, if C9 doesn't make finals, I will steal $100 from Kobe whenever he's not paying attention, and I will hand it to you. All right. London folks, please give me tips and stuff. I'm trying to figure out if there's someplace else in the UK I should go for a couple days. So there we go. Mark, what do you want to shout out?
Shout out Travis Gafford, the best content creator in the entire League of Legends ecosystem. We had a great episode tonight.
I'm suspicious. What are you doing here?
Nothing. That's it. I'm done. I don't know if I'm doing a blame game this. I don't think I'm doing a blame game this week. There's just nothing to really talk about.
God. Okay.
What? We talked about this.
Yeah. I said May 5th.
I know you did. What do you want me to do?
Invent something.
I got other things. No, I'll need to check with people that I can give you this video. I'll give you this video.
Yeah. All right. That's the show. Everyone, nobody leave. Everybody stay here. I've got a bounty that will last a couple minutes. And I'm also going to open some magic stuff, and then we're going to talk about stuff. Anyway, thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.